The stars had always called to humanity. For thousands of years, people looked up at the night sky and dreamed of what lay beyond. In the year 2347, those dreams finally became real. Earth's scientists discovered how to travel faster than light, and humanity took its first steps into the galaxy. Admiral Park. Doan stood on the observation deck of Earth's newest space station, watching the stars shine in the darkness. He was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes. He had spent his whole life preparing for this moment. Humanity was no longer alone. 3 days ago, signals had come from deep space. Alien signals. The messages were simple, but clear. Someone was coming to meet humanity. "They will arrive in 1 hour," said Kim Yuna, walking up beside him. She was the Secretary of Interstellar Affairs, a woman with sharp eyes and a kind smile. She had worked for 20 years to prepare Earth for this day. "The whole world is watching, Admiral." Doan nodded slowly. "I hope they come as friends." The alien ships appeared exactly on time. There were hundreds of them, each one larger than anything humans had ever built. They blocked out the stars like a metal cloud. The Galactic Council had arrived. The council was made of 12 ancient alien races. They had ruled the galaxy for 50,000 years. Their technology was so advanced that human scientists could not even understand how it worked. To them, humanity was like a child taking its first steps. The council's ambassador was a tall creature with blue skin and 4 arms. It called itself Representative Vorath. It did not smile. It did not offer friendship. It simply delivered a message. "Humanity will join the council," Vorath said, its voice cold and flat. "You will serve. You will obey. This is not a request." Doan felt his heart turn cold. "And if we refuse?" Vorath's eyes showed no emotion. "No species refuses the council." The attack came without warning. One moment the alien ships hung silent in space. The next moment, beams of light rained down on Earth like fire from an angry god. Seoul vanished in a flash of white. New York burned. London crumbled. Mumbai became dust in memory. Captain Lee Tai-ho watched from the bridge of his ship, the ESS Defiance. He was a young officer, only 32 years old, with a wife and daughter waiting for him back home. In Seoul, he gripped the arms of his chair so hard his knuckles turned white. "Captain," whispered Lieutenant Onmingi, her voice shaking. She was barely 25, fresh from the academy. Tears ran down her face. Seoul is gone." Tai-ho could not speak. He could not breathe. Everything he loved was burning below him. There was nothing he could do. Sergeant Choi Sung-ho stood at the weapons console, his hands hovering over controls that suddenly seemed useless. "Sir, should we attack? Should we do something?" But what could one small ship do against an empire that had conquered 1,000 worlds? The bombardment lasted 6 hours. When it ended, 2 billion people were dead. Earth's cities were ruins. The sky was black with smoke and ash. Humanity's dream of reaching the stars had become a nightmare. Earth's government surrendered within 3 days. They had no choice. The Council's army landed in every major city, their soldiers marching through streets filled with bodies and broken buildings. Humanity was declared a servitor species. It was a polite word for slaves. Admiral Doan was taken prisoner. Kim Yuna disappeared into an underground bunker, swearing she would never stop fighting. Captain Tai-ho and his crew escaped into deep space, their ship damaged but still flying. They had nowhere to go, but they refused to surrender. The aliens divided humanity like cattle. Strong men and women were sent to mining colonies on distant worlds. Children were separated from parents. Families were torn apart. Anyone who resisted was killed as an example. The Valoran Empire, the Council's military arm, ruled Earth with an iron fist. Their soldiers walked through human cities like giants among ants. They laughed at human weakness. They mocked human tears. They believed humanity was broken forever. In the ruins of Busan, a soldier named Yoon Hajin crawled out from under the rubble of his home. His wife was dead. His children were dead. His entire unit was dead. He had nothing left except rage and a promise. "I will make them pay," he whispered to the empty sky. "I will make them remember this day." and I will make them regret it. He was not alone. Across the burning earth, in hidden places and secret rooms, others made the same promise. Scientists who had escaped the roundups, soldiers who had survived the bombardment, ordinary people who had lost everything and had nothing left to lose. The council believed the story was over. They had conquered countless species before. They knew the pattern. Resistance would fade. Hope would die. Within a generation, humans would forget they had ever been free. But humanity was different. The council did not understand this yet. They did not know that humans had built their entire history on refusing to give up. They did not know that the same species that had survived ice ages and plagues and wars would not simply accept chains in the darkness of space. Captain Taiho looked at his small crew. Minji had stopped crying. Sungho's hands were steady now. They were scared, they were hurt, but they were not broken. "We lost today," Taiho said quietly. "But we will not lose forever. Somewhere out there, others survived. We will find them. We will gather them. And one day, we will come back." The Defiants turned away from Earth and flew into the darkness between stars. Behind them, their home burned. Ahead of them, the future waited. The fall of Earth was complete. But the story of humanity's revenge had just begun. 5 years passed under alien rule. 5 years of chains and suffering. 5 years of watching humanity scattered across the stars like dust in the wind. The Galactic Council believed they had won. They believed humans had accepted their fate. They were very wrong. Deep beneath the ruins of Busan, in tunnels that the aliens never found, General Yoon Haejin built his army. The soldier who had crawled from the rubble of his home was now the leader of the United Earth's resistance. His hair had turned white. His face was covered in scars. But his eyes burned with the same fire that had kept him alive on the first day. "Report," he said, standing before a wall of flickering screens. Shinbora stepped forward. She was thin and pale, with dark circles under her eyes. For 3 years, she had worked as a servant in an alien communication center. The council never noticed the quiet human woman copying their secrets. "The council is planning something general. I found messages about Earth. Something called Project Cleansing." Ajin's jaw tightened. "What does it mean?" "They want to make Earth unlivable. Poison the air. Kill the soil. Within 6 months, nothing will grow there ever again. They want to erase us completely." Silence filled the underground room. The 20 resistance leaders gathered there looked at each other with horror in their eyes. It was one thing to be conquered. It was another to be erased. "Then we have 6 months," Hajan said quietly. 6 months to do what everyone says is impossible. On a distant mining world called Kethra 7, Dr. Songhana worked in chains alongside 1,000 other human slaves. She was a physicist, one of the smartest minds on Earth before the invasion. Now, she broke rocks under an alien sun, her hands bleeding and her back aching, but her mind never stopped working. The aliens who guarded, the mine used personal shields, small devices that created barriers of energy around their bodies. Human weapons could not touch them. For 5 years, Hannah watched those shields. She studied them. She dreamed about them. One night, she finally understood. The shields all use the same frequency. She whispered to herself in the darkness of her cell. One frequency. If we could match it, tune a weapon to that exact vibration, shields would be useless. The aliens would be vulnerable. She needed to get this information to the resistance. She needed to escape. 3 weeks later, a small freighter landed at the Kethra 7 mining camp to pick up her shipments. The pilot was a young man named Baek Jun-ho, with messy hair and a crooked smile. He looked like a simple transport worker. He was actually one of the Resistance's best smugglers. His co-pilot, Kongnari, had memorized every patrol route in this sector of space. She knew when the guards changed shifts. She knew which cameras had blind spots. She knew exactly how to hide a scientist in a cargo container without the aliens noticing. "Are you Dr. Song?" Gunho asked quietly as he loaded boxes near Hannah's work area. She looked at him with desperate hope. "You're from the Resistance? Get in the 3rd container. Don't make a sound. We leave in 10 minutes. Escape was not easy. Patrol ships scanned the freighter twice. Nari held her breath each time, watching the scanner screens with terrified eyes. But the aliens were arrogant. They did not believe humans could outsmart them. They let the ship pass. When Hannah arrived at the Resistance base on Titan, she brought information that changed everything. "I can build a weapon," she told General Hagen. "A device that will cut through their shields like they are not there. But I need materials. I need engineers. I need time." Hagen smiled for the first time in years. "You will have everything you need." The Resistance began to grow faster than ever before. Across the galaxy, human slaves heard whispers of hope. A message passed from worker to worker, from cell to cell. Someone was fighting back. Someone had a plan. Engineer Osiwu was building ships. He had escaped from a council shipyard, stealing design blueprints in his head. Now, in hidden asteroid fields, far from any patrol route, he constructed warships from stolen parts and salvaged metal. They were ugly ships, rough and simple. But they could fly and they could fight. "How many do we have?" Hajan asked during one of his visits. Siwu wiped grease from his face. 200 ready. Another 50 in progress? Each one carries Dr. Song's harmonic disruptors. 200 ships. Against an empire of millions. It seemed hopeless. But Hajan had learned something important in 5 years of occupation. The council was not as strong as they appeared. They ruled through fear, not loyalty. 100 species served them, and not one served willingly. "When we strike," Hajan told his commanders, "we won't just free Earth. We will light a fire that burns across the entire galaxy. Every slave, every prisoner, every conquered people will see that the council can bleed, and then they will rise too." In the shadows of occupied Earth, resistance cells prepared for war. They gathered weapons. They memorized plans. They said goodbye to loved ones they might never see again. Captain Lee Tai-ho had finally returned. His ship now part of a hidden fleet. Lieutenant Minji was now his second in command, no longer the crying girl from 5 years ago. Sergeant Sung-ho trained new fighters with fierce determination. Commander Lim Jun was chosen to lead the assault fleet. She was a calm woman with steady hands and ice in her veins. Fear was a stranger to her. "When do we attack?" she asked. Hajan looked at the countdown on his screen. 6 months until Earth was destroyed forever. 6 months to prepare the impossible. "We attack in 5 months," he said. "We attack at dawn." The galaxy had no idea what was coming. The councils slept peacefully in their palace worlds, confident in their power. They did not hear the whispers in the dark. They did not see the ships being built in secret. The humans were coming, and they were very, very angry. The abandoned moon of Titan was cold and dark. No alien ships came here. No patrols watched its empty surface. That was why General Yoon Hajan chose it for the most important meeting in human history. They came from every corner of the galaxy. Miners who had worked in chains for years, soldiers who had hidden in the ruins of Earth, scientists who had pretended to serve there, masters while stealing their secrets, pilots who had flown through enemy space with death chasing them. Over 3,000 humans gathered in the underground base, their faces hard with determination. Hajan stood before them on a raised platform. He was 60 years old now, his body worn by years of war and loss, but his voice was strong. 5 years ago, they burned our world. They killed our families. They put chains on our hands and told us we were nothing but animals. He paused, looking across the sea of faces. They made one mistake. They let us live. A rumble of agreement passed through the crowd. In 3 weeks, the council plans to destroy Earth forever. They think we don't know. They think we're too stupid to understand their plans. They think we will simply accept our death. Hajan's eyes blazed. They are about to learn what happens when you try to kill humanity. Commander Lim Jun stepped forward to explain the plan. She was 40 years old, with short gray hair and a face that never showed emotion. She had lost her husband and 2 sons in the first bombardment. She had spent 5 years turning her grief into focus. "The attack will happen in 3 stages," she said. pointing to a holographic map of the galaxy. First, Major Hansunwo will lead a commando team to the Council's capital world. They will take over the main broadcast tower and send a message to every planet in the galaxy. This will create confusion and draw the Council's attention away from Earth. She moved her hand to show Earth on the map. Second, our main fleet will jump directly to Earth's orbit. The occupation fleet will not expect an attack. We will hit them hard and fast before they can call for help. Dr. Song's harmonic disruptors will destroy their shields. Without shields, their ships are just metal boxes. The third stage made everyone quiet. Third, resistance cells on Earth will rise at the same moment. Street by street, city by city, we will take back our home. Someone in the crowd raised their hand. What about the rest of the Council's navy? They have thousands of ships across the galaxy. June nodded. That is why timing matters. We strike at dawn, Galactic Standard Time. At that exact moment, human resistance cells on 40 other worlds will also attack. The Council will be fighting fires everywhere. They cannot send help to Earth if their own bases are burning. It was a bold plan. It was a desperate plan. It required everything to go perfectly at the same time across thousands of light years. Any mistake could mean death for everyone, but it was their only chance, Major. Hansunu gathered his commando team in a small room after the main meeting. There were only 12 of them, young men and women who had volunteered for a mission that had no return path. You all know what this means, Sun Wu said quietly. He was a large man with kind eyes and gentle hands. Before the war, he had been a teacher. We will take that broadcast tower. We will send our message. And we will hold that tower until we die. Corporal Park Yonji, the youngest member at just 21, nodded without fear. My whole family died on the first day. I've been waiting 5 years for this chance. Then let's make it count, Sun Wu said. In the engineering bay, Osuwu worked day and night to finish the last ships. His hands were burned from welding. His eyes were red from lack of sleep. But he refused to stop. These ships are not pretty, he told Dr. Songhana as she inspected his work. They shake when they fly. The controls are stiff, but they will fight. Every single one will fight. Hannah placed her hand on his shoulder. They are perfect, Siwu. They are exactly what we need. Captain Lee Taiho reunited with Admiral Park Doan, who had finally been rescued from a prison camp 3 months ago. The old admiral was thin and weak, his body broken by years of torture, but his mind was still sharp. I watched them burn, Sol, Dohan said, his voice barely a whisper. I gave the order to surrender because I thought it would save lives. I was wrong. Surrender only delayed death. It did not prevent it. You did what you thought was right, Taiho said, and now I will do what I know is right. Doan straightened in his chair. I want to record a message. Something to send with Sun Wu's broadcast. Let the galaxy hear from the Admiral who surrendered why humanity is done surrendering. The night before the attack, nobody slept. Soldiers checked their weapons one more time. Pilots walked around their ships, touching the metal like old friends. Lovers held each other close. Friends made promises they hoped to keep. Baek Jun-ho sat in the cockpit of his freighter, now equipped with weapons. Kang Nari was beside him, studying the route they would fly. Scared? She asked. Terrified, he admitted. You. She smiled slightly. I haven't felt anything but scared for 5 years. At least now I can do something about it. At midnight, General Hejon sent one final message to every resistance cell in the galaxy. 3 words only. Dawn approaches. Ready? Across 1,000 worlds, humans heard those words and understood. Years of waiting were over. Years of hiding were over. Tomorrow, they would fight. Tomorrow, they would probably die. But they would die free. They would die fighting. And they would die making sure the Council never forgot what humanity was capable of. In the cold darkness of space. 200 ships powered up their engines. Soldiers loaded into transports. Commandos checked their explosives. The storm was gathering. And soon, it would break. The Council's capital world was called Valoria Prime. It was a planet of golden towers and floating cities. home to the most powerful beings in the galaxy. No enemy had touched its soil in 10,000 years. Its people slept peacefully, confident in their eternal safety at exactly dawn, Galactic Standard Time. Major Han Sun-woo's team crashed through the roof of the central broadcast tower. The guards never had a chance. 12 humans moved through the building like ghosts, silent and deadly. Years of rage guided their hands. Years of training made every shot perfect. In 7 minutes, the tower belonged to them, wherein Sun-woo reported through his communicator, beginning broadcast. Every screen on every planet in the galaxy flickered. Billions of beings looked up in confusion as a human face appeared before them. Admiral Park Do-won, old and broken, but standing tall, spoke to the stars. I am Admiral Park Do-won of Earth. 5 years ago, I surrendered my planet to the Galactic Council. I believed it would save my people. I was wrong. The Council does not want slaves. The Council wants extinction. In 3 weeks, they plan to destroy Earth forever. He paused, his eyes burning with cold fire. So today, humanity is done surrendering. Today, we fight back. And to every species the Council has conquered. To every world living under their boot, I say this. Watch what happens next. Watch and remember. The Council can be beaten. The Council can bleed. And if humanity can rise, so can you. The broadcast ended. Across the galaxy, silence fell. And then chaos erupted. Council soldiers stormed the tower. Sun-woo and his team held them at the stairs, fighting for every inch. Corporal Park Young-ji took a shot to the shoulder, but kept firing. One by one, the commandos fell. But they held. They held long enough. Sun-woo was the last one standing. Wounded in 3 places, surrounded by enemies, he looked at the broken bodies of his team and smiled. Was it enough? He whispered. Then the Council soldiers killed him. But his smile never faded. He knew. He knew it was enough. Above Earth, the occupation fleet was enjoying a quiet morning. 300 alien warships hung in orbit, their crews bored and careless. 5 years of peace had made them soft. Why stay alert? Humans were slaves. Humans were broken. Humans were nothing. Commander Lim Jun's fleet appeared from hyperspace like a fist from darkness. 200 human ships, ugly and rough, emerged directly behind the alien formation. The aliens barely had time to react before the first wave of weapons fire hit them. Harmonic disruptors. Fire. Jun commanded. Blue light pulsed from every human ship. The alien shields flickered once, twice, and died. For the first time in 50,000 years, Council warships felt weapons pierce their hulls without any protection. Explosions lit up the darkness of space like fireworks. All ships, engage. Jun's voice was ice and steel. Show them what extinction looks like. The battle was brutal and fast. Human ships swarmed the larger alien vessels, hitting them from every direction. Captain Im Yo-han led a squadron straight into the heart of the enemy fleet, his guns blazing. Lieutenant Un Min-ji flew beside Captain Tai-ho, her navigation guiding them through fields of fire. Sergeant Choi Sung-ho commanded the weapons on the Defiance, finally able to fight back after 5 years of running. For Seoul, he whispered with each shot. For everyone, the alien fleet tried to retreat, but there was nowhere to go. Human ships blocked every escape route. Within 4 hours, 300 Council warships were burning wreckage, falling toward Earth's atmosphere. On the surface, resistant cells rose as one in the ruins of Seoul. Fighters who had hidden for years emerged from underground bunkers. They had few weapons, but they had rage. They had purpose. Sergeant Choi Sung-ho, now a rebel leader, charged through streets he had once walked as a boy. Forward, he shouted, take back our home. Corporal Yeo Dahae ran beside him, a medic with a gun in one hand and bandages in the other. She had saved hundreds of wounded during the occupation, healing humans in secret while pretending to serve alien masters. Now she fought openly. The alien ground forces were caught completely by surprise. They had expected peaceful slaves, not an army rising from the earth itself. Their shields failed. Their weapons could not stop the human tide. One by one, occupation bases fell. In Tokyo, fighters took the spaceport. In Sydney, rebels captured the command center. In Cairo, humans pulled down the statue of the council that had stood in the city center for 5 years by nightfall. Earth was free, but Commander June did not celebrate. She stood on the bridge of her flagship, looking down at the planet below. Fires still burned in some cities. The scars of occupation would take generations to heal. But the alien flag no longer flew over human soil. General Hajin's voice crackled through the communicator. "The surface is secure. The occupation is over." June closed her eyes for a moment. Just one moment of peace. Then she opened them again. "Earth is free," she announced to her commanders gathered on the bridge. "Now we free everyone else." The officers looked at each other with tired but determined faces. They knew the war was not over. The council still ruled 1,000 worlds. Their main fleet was still out there. Revenge would come. "Let them come," said Captain Taiho. "We'll be waiting." That night, humans across Earth looked up at the sky. For 5 years, those stars had been a symbol of their slavery. Now, they were a promise. A promise that humanity would never be conquered again. A promise that anyone who tried would learn the same lesson the council was about to learn. You can burn human cities. You can kill human families. You can put chains on human hands, but you cannot kill human hope. And you cannot stop humanity from fighting back. The liberation of Earth was complete, but the war for the galaxy had just begun. The liberation of Earth was only the beginning. Across the galaxy, Admiral Doan's final broadcast had planted seeds of rebellion in 1,000 hearts. Species that had lived under council rule for centuries watched humans achieve the impossible. If these primitives could fight back, why couldn't they? The fires of revolution spread faster than anyone expected. On the mining world of Kethra 7, where Dr. Song Hannah had once worked in chains, slaves rose against their masters. The Vorlani, a race of four-armed insectoids, had been conquered 8,000 years ago. They had almost forgotten what freedom felt like. Now, they remembered. On the trade hub of Nexus Station, merchants and workers seized control from council administrators. The Torathi peaceful beings who had never fought in their lives learned to hold weapons for the first time. Everywhere the message spread, hope followed. And where hope lived, rebellion grew. The war lasted 3 years. 3 years of battles across stars. 3 years of victories and defeats. 3 years of sacrifice. Admiral Lim Jun, promoted after the liberation of Earth, led the combined fleet of humanity and their new allies. Her hair was completely white now, her face lined with exhaustion, but her hands never shook. Her voice never wavered. The council built their empire on fear, she told her commanders. They told every species that resistance was impossible, that the council could never be beaten. We proved them wrong, and every time we win another battle, more species believe it too. The alliance grew stronger with each passing month. Humans fought alongside Vorlani and Torathi, alongside species whose names they could barely pronounce. Old enemies became friends. Ancient hatreds were forgotten in shared purpose. General Yunhajan commanded the ground forces. At 63 years old, he still led from the front. His soldiers followed him not because of his rank, but because of what he represented. Survival, defiance, the refusal to ever give up. "I lost everything on the first day," he often told new recruits. "My family, my home, my hope. I spent 5 years in darkness, planning revenge. But revenge is not why we fight anymore. We fight because the galaxy deserves better than the council. We fight because every species deserves to be free." The council did not fall easily. They had ruled for 50,000 years. They had technology humanity could not match. They had numbers that seemed endless, but they had weakness too. Their empire was built on fear, not loyalty. When fear faded, loyalty vanished. Council soldiers began to surrender instead of fight. Council worlds began to negotiate instead of resist. The ancient power was crumbling from within. The final battle took place above Valoria Prime, the Council's throne world. The same planet where Major Sunwoo had died to send humanity's message now faced humanity's judgment. 3,000 Alliance ships surrounded the planet. The largest fleet ever assembled faced the last defenders of the old order. General Hagen stood on the bridge of the flagship Humanity's Answer, looking at the enemy formation. Sending a message, reported Captain Lee Tai-ho, now commander of the assault group. They want to surrender. Conditional surrender, added Shinbora, reading the transmission. They want to keep their leadership, their wealth, their armies. They just want the fighting to stop. Hagen was quiet for a long moment. He thought about his wife, his children, the billions who had died on the first day, the billions more who had died in the years since. No, he said finally. No conditions. Their military surrenders completely. Their leaders face justice. Their conquered species go free. That is our offer. They won't accept, Tai-ho said. Then they die. Hagen's voice was hard but not cruel. I don't want revenge anymore. I want this to end. But it ends on our terms, not theirs. The council refused. Their fleet attacked. The battle lasted 12 hours. When it was over, the council fleet was destroyed. Valoria Prime's military installations were smoking craters. The ancient rulers who had burned Earth, who had enslaved humanity, who had conquered 1,000 species, surrendered without conditions, had Jun kept his word. The military was destroyed. The leaders faced trials. But the civilians were spared. Humanity remembered too well what genocide felt like. They would not become the monsters they had fought. Dr. Song Hannah helped establish the new Galactic Accord, a coalition built not on dominance, but on cooperation. Every species had one vote. Every voice mattered. Humans did not rule this new order. They simply helped create it. 5 years after the final battle, a ceremony was held on Earth. The planet had healed remarkably fast. Cities rose from the ashes. Children played in streets that had once been battlefields. The scars remained, but so did hope. Secretary Kim Yuna, who had hidden in bunkers during the occupation and emerged to help rebuild, stood before delegates from 200 worlds. She was old now, her hair silver, her movements slow. But her voice carried across the great assembly hall. 10 years ago, we were alone. We looked up at the stars and dreamed of friends. Instead, we found conquerors. They burned our world. They killed our people. They called us primitive animals who would be forgotten by history. She paused, looking across the sea of faces. Human faces. Alien faces. All watching. All listening. They were wrong. Humanity does not forget. We do not give up. We do not accept that tomorrow must be worse than today. And now, neither does anyone else. Admiral Lim Jun sat in the front row, her uniform covered in medals. Beside her was General Hagen, retired now, but never forgotten. Captain Tai-ho and his crew, Dr. Hannah, Engineer Siwoo, all the survivors who had built victory from impossible odds. The council asked what makes humans dangerous, Kim Yuna continued. They spent years trying to understand how primitives could defeat an empire. They never found the answer. So let me tell them now, and let the whole galaxy hear. She stood straighter, her old eyes burning with the same fire that had kept humanity alive. What makes us dangerous is not our weapons. It is not our technology. It is not our numbers. It is this simple truth. When you knock us down, we get up. When you burn our homes, we build new ones. When you kill our hope, we create more. You can defeat us 100 times. 1,000 times. It does not matter. We will keep coming. We will keep fighting. We will never, ever stop. She smiled, the weight of 10 years finally lifting from her shoulders. And now, thanks to human stubbornness, so will everyone else. The galaxy is free, and it will stay free forever. The hall erupted in cheers. Humans and aliens together, celebrating not the victory of one species, but the liberation of all. In the back of the hall, a young human girl tugged on her mother's hand. She had been born after the war, in a galaxy that had never known council rule. "Mama," she asked, "is it true? Did humans really fight the whole galaxy and win? Her mother smiled down at her. Yes, baby. We did. Why? The mother thought about it. About all the stories she had heard, all the sacrifices, all the hope. Because someone had to, she finally said. And humans never wait for someone else to do hard things. The little girl nodded seriously. Then she looked up at the stars visible through the hall's crystal ceiling. Stars that no longer represented fear or slavery, stars that belonged to everyone now. The story of humanity's war was over. But the story of humanity's future was just beginning.